Welcome to another edition of Bible Time. This is the Wednesday, October 14th edition. And I mentioned the date specifically because we have a national election coming up on November 3rd, but early voting has already started. And I think that, as Christians who want to be faithful citizens, as we should be, that I want to encourage you to vote and to vote carefully. And one reason why simply comes from what we're reading in our Bible times, our daily Bible reading. We're seeing the importance of good leadership, good national leadership. The things that were true in Israel when they had good leadership as opposed to when they had evil leadership would be the same for us here today. And so you need to think carefully and pray and act wisely and take advantage of the opportunity that you have in our country to be involved in the process and to vote and to be the kind of citizen that the Bible would call us to be, a faithful citizen who supports our government. And that's all the more important as you see the chapters that we're looking at today, chapters 23 and 24 of 2 Chronicles. It's about Joash, and you remember the story. Yesterday we saw how his life had been spared while Athaliah, the mean queen, was on a rampage to actually wipe out the line of David. He was rescued rescued by the wife of the priest Jehoiada, and then trained up and raised by Jehoiada. And in time, when Joash was 7 years old, Athaliah planned it all out to overthrow Athaliah and to establish Joash as the king. And to do that, as it says there at the beginning of chapter 23, as the Lord spoke concerning the sons of David. And so right off the bat, you're going to see familiar themes here in the Chronicles. The covenant with David, the line of David, that's important. And that's encouragement to the people that are reading this originally, who are people who came back from captivity. They're back in Jerusalem, and they're anticipating, looking for their Messiah from the line of David. And Joash begins reforms. He tore down the house of Baal, and he restores temple worship according to the instruction of David. You see David's name keep coming up. And he repairs the temple, which again is key to the original readers that probably Ezra is writing to, encouraging them to be faithful to the Lord and to remember his covenants and to restore the temple and to restore worship at the temple. This is all important for them. This is all encouragement for them. And we're told that Joash, in chapter 25, Joash did right all the days of Jehoiada the priest. So his doing right is qualified by a time frame, the days of Jehoiada the priest. But then when Jehoiada dies, the man who raised Joash, the man who helped Joash be established as king, the man who really trained and mentored and led Joash, once he's gone, Joash starts listening to other voices, other advisors, and he reinstitutes idolatry, and they abandon the house of God. And we're told there in verse 18 of verse 24, chapter 24, talking about Joash after Jehoiada dies, they bring God's wrath upon them, as it says in verse 18. They bring God's wrath upon them. And God starts sending prophets to them, and we're told that they don't listen to the prophets. And one of the prophets was the son of Jehoiada, Zechariah, and he tells them that things are happening, these bad things are happening to you because you have forsaken the Lord, and so he has forsaken you. Another major theme of Chronicles. You seek the Lord, you'll find him. You forsake him, he'll forsake you. The line of David, the building of the temple, all these themes you see coming out in this text. And not only does Joash not listen to Zechariah, the son of the man who did so much for Joash, he has Zechariah killed. And then we're told that they are defeated by the Syrians, and it's because, as it says there in verse 24, Judah had forsaken the Lord. And so There's a sad ending here to Joash's life. He gets assassinated, and he's not buried with the kings of Judah. Sad ending. What it turned out to be looked like such a great beginning, showed such great promise, became a very bad ending. And sadly, that's an all too common story. You see people who grow up in the church and it seems so good, seems like they know the Lord, they love the Lord, they're serving the Lord. Then they move away from home and they apparently abandon the Lord. Or those who are very active and strong in one church, they move to another part of the country or whatever, they change churches, and it doesn't end the way it started. Or a great leader that they were following either disappoints them or dies, even as in the case of Jehoiada, and these people start wandering away because it was just all about what that one person was saying. Good beginnings don't guarantee good endings. We're to persevere all the way to the end. And if you remember back to our studies in the book of Hebrews, we were talking about having an enduring faith, a faith that endures all the way to the end. This is a common story where people start listening to other voices other than the scripture, other than the Lord himself, and they wander off into rebellion. And so let's be careful today. Let's be involved in fellowship with one another. Let's encourage one another to be faithful all the way to the end. Let's give good counsel, good advice to one another. Let's care about the souls of one another. Let's not take anything for granted or assume just because there's been a good beginning, there's going to be a good ending. We need to be careful and diligent all the way, remembering that God's being faithful all the way. And he is being faithful to his covenant to David. And he is still being faithful to the fact that those who seek him will find him, but those who forsake him, he will forsake them. So let's encourage one another to be faithful to one another, and let's learn the lesson of good leadership as we go and vote this year. We'll see you tomorrow for more Bible Time.